Let's get ready to rumble!
Okay, well, in regards to Tyson Fury versus Usyk, I don't believe that Tyson Fury is in fear of Usyk. I just don't believe he wants to fight Usyk at this time. So what has he done? He's brought off some diversion tactics to avoid this fight from happening. So what happened is him and Frank Warren, they came up with this plan and this rematch clause bullcrap, which is just another barrier to build so this fight doesn't happen right now. The big problem is that he priced out Usyk by offering him a 70 to 30 split. And you don't do that to a guy who's an Olympic champion. Before he got to the pros, he participated in a prestigious tournament that involved guys like Joe Joyce. There was no headgear involved. He fought heavyweights, and he was actually a true cruiserweight at the time.
The WSB tournament.
He got involved with the cruiserweight division when he entered the pros. He fought in a tournament and became an undisputed champion. Then he moved up and he became a unified champion by defeating Anthony Joshua 2 times. This right here is first ballot work right here, first ballot Hall of Fame work, because a fighter could get into the Hall of Fame first ballot just based off of a tournament alone, because we saw that happen with Andre Ward. Okay, now this whole thing really has to do with him offering Usyk a 70-30 split, and then Usyk responded and said that, hey, I have some demands that I want to make too. I want you to donate $1 million to the Ukrainian cause. And not only that, for each day that you hold out, you're going to pay 1% to the Ukrainian cause. When they had that little discussion with the promoters, Frank Warren didn't bring that up. He used this rematch clause as a diversion tactic, when the real root of the problem is that you guys lowballed Usyk, which is an old school tactic to get your way out of the fight. It's the lowball a fighter. In regards to cleaning out a division, I totally believe in that, because Ali, he cleaned out a division. So did Mike Tyson. You know what it is about Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson participated in a tournament, and people seem to forget that all the time, that the top players were involved in that tournament. So Tyson put himself on the line. He put his career on the line and his record on the line in a tournament that involved that he had no control over who he was going to fight next. That alone got Andre Ward into the Hall of Fame. Mike Tyson put his undefeated record on the line. He entered the tournament. He came out on top of that tournament. And not only that, he became the undisputed champion. Then, for all of those who had any doubt, there was a lineal champion named Michael Spinks who moved up and beat Larry Holmes. So not only did he get that undisputed claim, he got the lineal claim. Now, people want to downgrade Rocky Marciano, but the thing about it is a lot of people who do this don't even know the fighters that were around in Rocky Marciano's era. Rocky Marciano retired in 1955 after the Archie Moore fight. People will say things like, oh, he retired undefeated. He just fought a bunch of old men. Well, a lot of the young players at that time were just coming into the gate. You had Sonny Liston out there. You had Eddie Machen out there. You could put Marty Marshall in there. You could put Cleveland Williams in the group.
Zora Foley.
Yes. And a lot of people don't even know who these fighters are, and they want to downgrade Rocky Marciano and his accomplishments, but he cleared out a division for the guys who was at the top at that time, who the Ring magazine was rating at the top, which was the older guys like Ezra Charles and Archie Moore, because Marty Marshall, Eddie Machen, Sonny Liston, and those guys, Cleveland Williams, did not fight the old school crop of fighters. So he got rid of the old school. He could have waited around. Floyd Patterson is another name. In fact, that's one of the biggest ones. But he could have waited around and got a little bit older and waited around for those guys. But his time was up. He was past that. He did what he needed to do. He cleaned out the division. Ali reigned in 2 different eras. He reigned in the 1960s and fought pretty much everybody other than Machen and Spencer, maybe. And if you want to throw Leotis Martin in there, you can. But he fought everyone who was a major player before he was stripped in 1967. Then he came back in 1970 and he reigned for like what? I mean, he didn't get the belt back until 74, but he had a people's champion reign with the USPA, where he fought on all comers at that time. He was more active than Joe Frazier and George Foreman at the time, fighting several times a year pretty much cleaning up the division. By the time he got that belt, he had already beat pretty much everybody. So he went on ahead and he fought guys like Ronnie Lyle, Ernie Shavers. I mean, big punchers, guys that people were afraid to fight. Jimmy Young, a skilled technical fighter of that time period. A lot of people didn't want to fight those guys. He fought all of them when he was past his prime. So there's no way anybody should be comparing Tyson Fury to that crop of fighters. And not Larry Holmes either, who had 20 defenses. Some people could say that Larry Holmes didn't fight the young fighters like there was a few of them out there, Tony Tubbs.
He fought Witherspoon. He fought Carl the Truth.
He fought Carl the Truth Williams. He fought Witherspoon. There's just a little bit of guys he didn't fight, but those guys, they had setbacks. They had major setbacks. He negotiated with some of those guys, and they had major setbacks and were losing fights. And, some of them had drug setbacks and things like that, of that nature. But for the most part, everyone knew who Larry Holmes was. They knew he was the champ because he had a lineal claim. When Ali came back, he beat Ali. If people want, I know that Ali was way past his prime, but Larry Holmes still had a lineal claim because lineal meant something back then. Too many lines had not been broken at that time. People don't really understand. They have to understand the atmosphere. That's why when I do my documentaries, I always present the atmosphere. Because if you don't know the atmosphere and you're doing a Google rundown, then you don't really know what the hell you're talking about.
That's right.
Tyson Fury is not on these guys' level. He has not cleaned out the heavyweight division. People are going around saying that, he'll just beat Joe Joyce. He'll beat Hergovich. He'll beat this guy. That I don't know. I haven't seen him fight those guys.
That's right. We need to see it. Because what you're saying with Marciano, they say that he ducked Liston. No, he didn't. When Liston came to prominence was when he knocked out Mike DeJohn. The guy who authored the book told me that. And that was in 1959. He didn't duck him. Like, Liston wasn't on the radar for Marciano to fight.
Because he spent some time incarcerated. And his career was kind of cut short because he was always getting in trouble outside of the ring. That's not Rocky Marciano's fault.
Yeah.
Liston could have showed up at an earlier date, but he had some issues outside of the ring too. Eddie Machen was around in the environment when Marciano retired, but he wasn't there yet. Marciano would have had to wait for guys like Eddie Machen and Floyd Patterson to develop. By the time he would have waited, 2 or 3 more years would have passed.
Can I just add that Tyson Fury is not and has never been the lineal champion? Let's get that straight.
He's never been the lineal champion.
There was no lineal. When Klitschko picked up the belts, his brother held the WBC belt, which he retired. Bermain Stavern won the vacant belt. Wilder picked it up off him. Now, Fury is not the lineal champion, but he's also retired. So what are we saying here? Are we saying that if Lennox Lewis was to come back, he would suddenly be the champion and usurp Tyson Fury's claim as a so-called lineal champion? This is a nonsense. Fury has never been the lineal champion. This is another lie. And until he beats everyone and cleans out the division and picks up all the belts that are available, he cannot claim to be the true heavyweight champion.
I agree with that. He was never the lineal champion because he doesn't have a line to Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis was the last undisputed champion.
Yes.
Okay, so Vladimir Klitschko picked up some belts. Vitaly Klitschko, who failed against Lennox Lewis, picked up the WBC strap. He held on to that for several years. He messed around with Bermain Stavern for like 2 years or something like that. So he never did get the WBC belt, and he didn't clean up the whole picture the way you're supposed to reestablish the lineal lines. And once ago, it was in the definition at one time because I researched it 10 years ago that to reestablish the lines, you have to be an undisputed champion. Vladimir Klitschko was never undisputed. There was always a dispute. If there's a dispute there, then you're not undisputed. The dispute was the WBC belt. Do I believe he would have beat Bermain Stavern? Absolutely. But he didn't do that. He did not accomplish that.
See, there's a few discrepancies, right? They say if you retire, that your lineage is broken. But that's not really true because Joe Louis, after he beat Walcott the second time, he retired. And then he came back when Ezzard was champion and Ezzard took the lineage from him. Right? And like you're saying, right? When Marciano retired, Patterson knocked out old boy Archie, right? Like you're saying, you got to be undisputed. That was a fight for undisputed. They didn't have to go around and tie up all the belts because there wasn't a whole load of belts around. So
No,
for
there
Tyson,
wasn't. There was the New York State. There was the New York State and the NBA.
Yeah,
pretty much. And some people didn't even want to consider the New York State as a global belt, even though they were presenting it as a global. They didn't want to. But those were the only two belts. There wasn't all these belts around. So at this point, with 4 major belts in play, you have to reestablish the lines through an undisputed claim.
And after Lennox got beat, how do we establish that? Because Vitali went off with belts, Vladimir went off with belts. Who is Lineal? Who's Lineal?
We never got a legitimate lineage from their era because they never fought each other.
There wasn't a lineal, so he's making that up.
They
like the
gentleman
just said, the gentleman on your panel here just said, it's a bunch of hogwash because they made it up. This is something that Tyson Fury made up. And another thing that disgusts me about Tyson Fury, he dropped those belts by his wayside. When he came back to the sport, he was treated fairly. Him and Wilder, they went through their negotiations. He was given 50% after being a cocaine head and being accused of being a drug cheat. He was still treated fairly. So now you want to go out there and you want to treat a guy who's got all these accomplishments and accolades as some second-rate bum fighter that should bow down to your demands and dance to your tune. I think that's very disrespectful what he did to Usyk. It's very disrespectful. And that's why he tried to get his way out of the fight. Because who would present a fighter like Usyk of his caliber and of his stature with such a low ball offer?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Think of it like this, right? Think of it like this. This is what I was saying. When I was talking about when Ali was unfairly, took his license unfairly, right? When he came back, Ali was like a global icon. Ali was a global icon, right? In all countries around the world.
He also had a legitimate lineal claim, Beats, at that time.
Right, he did. But how comes Ali split the purse 2.5 apiece in front? Why didn't he ask for more? He didn't do that. He said 2.5 apiece for Joe. Let's go.
And he was a real lineal champion because he had got that WBA strap from Ernie Terrell before he retired.
Yes, he did.
Before he was forced out of the sport. So he had both of the belts. He had the WBC and he had the WBA. That's the definition of a lineal champion.
Ali cleared everything up. Like, while Ali was away, Joe couldn't do anymore because he had the NSAC belt, right?
That's right. Yes.
Which he won from Buster Mathis Sr.
That's true.
Yeah. Ellis won the tournament, right? The WBA tournament. Frazier flattened him. So he had the New York State Athletic Commission, the WBA, and they put the WBC belt that lay dormant for a while, from what I can remember, the WBC.
Yes, you're right. You're correct.
Right. Yeah. And then Ali came back, and then Joe took everything. Joe took everything. See, this is a great debate here, right? All these people saying he's lineal will not be established until Fury fights Usyk for undisputed.
Can I just make one more point about Fury's lineal claim? Okay, look. He holds the WBC belt. The WBC belt was the one belt that Vladimir Klitschko didn't hold. And don't forget, when Lennox gave it up, it got pinged around a bit because Oleg Maskayev had it for a while, and what's the guy's name? The big African fella, Samuel Peter, he had it for a while. So for him to say, having retired, released twice, well, I'm still the lineal champion. Well, you've only got the one belt, which is the WBC belt. And that was the one that has nothing to do with your so-called lineage. And okay, you beat Vladimir Klitschko, but he wasn't a lineal champion anyway. So all of this is just a sort of obscurantist load of crap that he spews to sort of con casuals and the masses into thinking that he's something he isn't.
Right. Like, I try to break down the real lineage of Tyson Fury's, lineal claim, right? After he beat Klitschko, right? To me, it lasted like about 9 months, right? Because I think it was like October or September that the rematch was called off, right? And Tyson Fury God damn it, Luke, he looked like a freaking mess. He looked like a freaking mess. And I'm thinking, well, that's a pregnancy term right there. It's over. He's retiring. Get out of here. And so when he came back and ended up defeating Wilder, right? He basically picked up a championship lineage, right? From a guy who beat a man who did not face Vitali. And he was basically took step aside money, not to face him. And that was pretty much it. So this whole lineage claim is a load of crap because after you retire, that's it. It's already held up. That's it's already, you've already tossed him, and Joshua was the one who had to pick them up.
Well,
And
the
brought money
retirement
back
thing.
into
The retirement thing. Hold your train of thought there. Lewis retired. And it, like, there were states in America who didn't recognize Ezra Charles as champion. He need, like, in Europe, they tried to make their own champion with Lee Seffold, the American Norwegian guy. He knocked out Bruce Woodcock for the European world title version of the world title, right? And then that got embarrassed because Lewis came out of retirement and flattened flipping Savold, who won that belt. Flattened him, and then they disbanded it. And even with Jack Johnson, to a degree, he had to get lineage from the Boilermaker Jeffries. Even though he had crushed Burns in 1908 in Australia, he had to get lineage from my guy because he retired undefeated and was on the farm when they pulled him out. They were looking for a white hope, right? So I'm not sure about you if you retire. If I'm not sure, there's grey area around that.
I agree. There's a grey area. I agree with that. But at the same time, just to sort of play devil's advocate, are we saying that if Lennox Lewis was to come out of retirement, he would have to be considered the lineal champion? Would you have to beat Lennox Lewis?
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. You can make that argument.
You could make the argument. I mean, if Fury can say he's lineal champion, Lennox sure can.
Oh, well, Lennox is the lineal champion.
Right? No one would take him serious because we know that his skills have eroded by now. Right? Yeah. No one would take it serious. But if Fury can say he's lineal champion, Lennox can say, hey, none of you have been undisputed since me. Yeah. And when I retired,